What's going on, you guys? Mr. Allen here. In this video, I'm going to show you how to create a scatter plot using your TI-84 Plus graphing calculator and everything that goes along with it. We're going to create a linear regression model, store it in our y-equals, use it to make predictions and go through any kind of errors that you might encounter the first time or any time you're doing this in your classroom. So the first thing we're going to do here is I'm going to hit Stat, and we're going to go to Edit, and that's going to bring up our lists. All right, you see I have some data off to the side that I want to input here, but I will need to clear some things out first. So I'm going to arrow over to L1, arrow up there, and then I'm going to hit clear and enter. It's important that you hit clear, enter, and not delete, because here's what's going to happen if you hit delete. If I hit delete, the list is gone, and then if I hit delete again, it's gone. Okay. So this is the first problem that you're likely to encounter in your class when doing a scatter plot for the first time, or really any time. Kids might have lists that are deleted. So how do you restore those lists? So this is the first error. I'm going to hit Stat once again. I'm going to arrow down to number 5, which is the Setup Editor. Hit Enter on that. Enter one more time. Now when I go back to Stat and Edit, all my lists are back. Okay? So anytime you're missing a list, no matter which one it is, if you want to restore them, those are the steps to go through. Now we can input all of that data into our L1 and L2. So I'm gonna speed up the video for this part here so we don't have to watch me do that, but it's gonna be like 11, enter, 12.5, enter, so on and so forth. And now when I want to go to the next list, I'm just going to arrow to the right, brings me to the top. I can hit 77, enter, 78, enter, so on and so forth. So now that we have everything in here, it's important to check and see, do I have the same amount in each one of my lists? Here, yes, we do. If one of your students does it, they're gonna have to go back and comb through that data. So it's important to take your time so you don't miss something or mistype something, okay? So now we're all set here. We wanna graph it and we wanna see all this stuff. But we do need to turn our scatter plot on. One of the ways to do that is hit second y-equals. It brings up our stat plots. Hit enter on one, and then we can turn it on right there. Right, and then we can go through all the different details that are in this thing as well. So here you see that it's a scatter plot, right? It's a, all little dots. We can get line, histogram, box and whisker, all that good stuff. We'll stick with this one first. Then we have our list types, right? So if you have different data going in, right, you want to do multiple scatter plots, you may pull from list 3, 4, 5, and 6 for different plots. As you can see up here, we have plot 1, 2, and 3 that you can turn on. So we'll stick with just one, basics right now. We're using L1 and L2, that's where we typed everything in. And we can even change what our dots are gonna look like. We'll keep it on this one, and you can change the color. If you wanna have a little bit of fun, we can go red, we can go black, magenta. I'll stick with blue, I feel like it looks okay. All right. Now before I hit graph, we're probably gonna wanna adjust something. Actually, you know what, let's just hit graph. Let's see what happens. Okay, I've got some old lines in my graph. That's probably pretty possible for your kids. So let's do this. Let's hit our y-equals. Let's clear those out, okay? We're going through this as if it were in a classroom. You're gonna have all sorts of different things going on in your kids' calculators. You got 30 of them in one class or so, give or take. You're bound to encounter different things. But if I hit graph, I still don't see anything. What's going on here? Well, we got to adjust our window. So let's hit window on our calculator and adjust it. I'm going to make my x min 0. And then since our x's are our shoe size, let's look at what our maximum shoe size was. It looks like it was 13. So why don't we go to like 15? Give us a little bit more room, okay? And then, maybe we got Shaquille O'Neal on here. I don't know what his shoe size is. I should look that up. It may be bigger than 15. Now my y minimum, I'll keep that as 0 as well, just so we get basically the first quadrant here. But my height, we're gonna have to have a bigger number. It looks like we got 78. Is that the largest that I'm seeing? It is. Why don't we go to 80, okay? Now, if we hit graph, we do see everything up there, right? But we may want, as we're gonna be doing a linear regression model, maybe we want a little bit more room so we can see a little more of the graph once we plot that. So we'll adjust the window again in a little bit. But for now, we see it. It does appear that it's going in a decently straight line. Maybe a couple little ones are off the beaten path, if you will, that'll be a little bit further away from our linear regression. But you could have kids, sketch this out, draw it on a paper, and kind of graph their line or sketch their line with a ruler here, or we use the calculator. Or we could do both. Let's hit stat right now. We're gonna calculate our linear regression, okay? So I hit stat, and then I arrow to calc. And option number 4 there is linear regression, okay? We hit enter on that, we're gonna get a nice little menu here of different things. We wanna pull from list 1 and list 2, We're not going to be using a frequency list here, but we do want to store our regression equation. And there are a couple ways to do this. I prefer using the soft keys, which would be alpha trace, one sec here, trace, and that pulls up my y1, y2, y3, y4. So if I hit enter there, it gives me y1. Cool. Another way to do that is using your vars keys, which is right next to clear. It's a few extra steps. So I think alpha, trace, that's the quickest way to go about it. And now I'm going to go to calculate, and we see this y equals ax plus b. I've got my a, I've got my b. But you may see the r and r squared values, whereas we don't see that on mine. So once again, another issue that may come up in your class. You might not want them up at the start for kids. I personally always like them up. So let's go ahead and change that, and we'll redo this process. So we're going to go to mode. And if we look down here, where are we at? Let's see here. All the way down at stat diagnostics. Currently, it's off. If I arrow over to on, we're just going to repeat this process now. I'll hit second quit to go back to the main screen. Hit stat, calc, go down to linear regression. I'm going to go ahead and store that regression equation again. I'll show you guys the vars method now, just in case some kids don't remember the soft keys. You can hit vars, arrow to y-vars, function, y1. So a few extra keystrokes. I like the soft keys, alpha F4 or alpha trace, and then also alpha window, alpha F2. Those two, they got some good stuff in them, some goodies. All right, so now let's go down to calculate, hit enter, and now I see my r squared, my r values there. And you can talk about that as the closer your r value is to positive 1 or negative 1, the stronger the correlation is there. So this one, 0.837, decent. Not perfect, nothing is, right, necessarily in the world, in the wild, if you will, but still a decent, correlation there. So now check this out. We stored it, right? We don't have to write all these numbers down. That's the one thing with these regression equations is a lot of times we're writing down all these decimals, and especially if you get into like a cubic or a quartic regression, oh my goodness, so many things to write down. So storing in your y equals, watch this, y equals, boom, it's already in there. That's pretty awesome, okay? And it's more accurate because you got all these. We got so many decimals. There's like, 12, 13, 14, I don't even know how many decimals there, but it's all in there. And if I hit graph now, voila, boom. I'm going to change the color of that line so it really, pops. Let's go ahead and arrow over, and I'll change it to red. How about? Now I'll hit, oops, got to hit OK. So arrow over, red, arrow down to OK. Now let's hit graph, and I got a red line going through those blue dots. So as you can see, it does fit that straight line pretty good. There's a couple of them that are a little bit off, and you can have that conversation with those. Again, nothing's going to be perfect, but it does have a nice little conversation for your class. Now, we can use this to actually predict, okay? So we can use this to make some predictions, all right? Now, I like to expand my window a little bit. We did talk about doing that, so let's hit window. And I'm going to change this to, not that we're probably going to have a size 20 shoe, who knows? And let's go to like 100, okay, for our height in inches. That's pretty tall. But anyways, so let's say somebody has a shoe size of like, I don't know, let's go with 7 right now. So what does it predict with 7? So if I hit second calc and I want to do like a value, I could type in an x value of 7, hit enter, and it's going to pop it on that line. And you can see how it turned red, right? It shows that we're on that line. That's why I like the color differentiation there. So this is what it's predicting, right? This is what the model's predicting. This is not the exact size. We had somebody with a size 7. It was 62 inches tall. And we had a 7.5 that was 63 inches tall. This one's saying a 62.7 inches, okay? So we can try that again. We can hit second calc once again, value, and then I can just go ahead. Let's say we're going to do a size 16. Let's go crazy, right? It's going to predict that they're 84.685 inches. And you can even do this not on your graphing screen. So check this out. This will be the last thing I think that we do here. So hit second quit. Now, in this one, I can actually evaluate a function. Okay, I can evaluate a function on my home screen. So if I hit if I hit alpha trace for those soft keys, right? Get my y1, parentheses, And let's say we do the 16 again, we should get that same answer. It plugs it in on the home screen. And you could also then just easily arrow up and say, okay, I want to try this for a size 12. Hit enter. What's it predicting? All right, let's go crazy with it. Let's do a size, 20. Who knows? I don't even, does anybody exist with a size 20? But they're going to be 94.45 inches tall, perhaps. Right? And then another conversation to have with your kids about this stuff is, how long is this model really valid? Does it make sense outside of certain parameters here that this model is going to hold true? Or is it really just from a size, 7 to size 15 is where we're going to feel pretty confident about this based on where all of our data is from? So good conversations to have, but those are the ins and outs of the calculator here. Know that you are going to encounter a lot of those different errors where you're going to be missing a list. The diagnostics might be off. Your scatter plot, you got to adjust the window for all that stuff. So different things to do there. Hopefully this video helps here. If you liked it, please like it on the YouTube, subscribe to the channel. And if you guys have any questions, drop them in the comments. I'll do my best to answer them for you. Other than that, have a great day and thanks so much for watching. See you later.